All right, checkpoint problems for constructing functions. With number 1, we're given that Bobby starts building birdhouses one morning to donate to the local Audubon Society. The following table shows the total number of birdhouses Bobby built after he starts building again after supper. So we're assuming that the relationship is linear, and we're asked to find and interpret the rate of change and initial value. So the rate of change, we'll look at what are the differences in the inputs, x, and those are just 1 hour each. And the differences in y is 2 each. So for each change in x of 1 hour, we have 2 birdhouses being built. So the rate of change is number of houses over the number of hours. And in each case, that is 2 over 1, which equals 2 houses per hour. Now for the initial value, again, we have several ways that we can do that. We'll go ahead and just use slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And we can pick any y, any x. I always use the first one, the smallest x value, because it usually ends up being easier. So we've got 9 equals our slope, or our rate of change, which is 2 houses per hour times x number of hours, which in this case, corresponding to 9 houses, is 1 plus b. Subtract 2 from both sides and we get 7 equals b. So our initial value is 7 houses. So the rate of change is how many houses per hour he builds. So rate of change, number of houses built per hour equals 2. And initial value of b equals 7 is that there were 7 houses that Bobby had already built that morning. Because remember, the table represents the changes from when he was building in the afternoon. Now with number 2, we are given that Jesse is driving from Kansas City, Missouri to St. Louis, Missouri, that the total distance is 256 miles, and that each hour she will drive 62 miles. Write an equation to represent the number of miles remaining, y, after driving any number of hours, x, and then graph the equation. What is the rate of change in y-intercept of the line? Explain why the line crosses the y-axis at 256. So first we're going to write an equation. So y equals the distance from the destination equals 256 minus the 62 miles per hour times the number of hours, x. So at 0, we plug in x equals 0. We get 256 minus, I'm going to erase this really quick. Made my y a little too big, got a little crazy there. So y, when x is 0, y equals 256. When x is 1, we have 256 minus 62, which is 194. At 3, we have 256 minus 62 times 3, which is going to leave us with 70. And at 4, we have 248 for 62 times our 4, which is going to leave us with 256 minus 48 is 8. So what we're looking at here, we'll plot these points: 0, 256. That's going to be right about here. At 1, we have 194, which is going to be right about here. At 3, we went ahead and skipped 1. So at 3, we have 70 which is going to be right about here. And at 4, we have 8, which is going to be right about here. So if you look at this, we pretty much have, as we should, a straight line. If I could get my straight edge on here right. A straight line between these points. And we're asked, what is the rate of change in the y-intercept of the line? The rate of change is simply the 62 miles per hour. That's how many miles the destination is being reduced in distance each hour. 62 miles every hour. We're also asked, what is the y-intercept of the line? The y-intercept is b equals 256. That's the y-intercept. And it says, explain why the line crosses the y-axis at 256. Well, that's when 0 hours have crossed. So line crosses y-axis at 256, which is miles. And the reason for this is because at 0 hours, Jesse has traveled 0 miles. So there's 256 miles left in the trip initially. All right, number 3, we are given that a tennis instructor charges an initial fee plus $30 per hour for lessons, and that Jackson paid $198 for 6 hours of instruction. We're told to assume the relationship is linear and find and interpret the rate of change and the initial value. So the rate of change, we're given it directly in the problem. It's $30 per hour. And we're also asked to find the initial value. With that, we need to substitute and solve. So we know y equals mx plus b. We're given a y of $198 equals the slope, which is $30 per hour, times x in this case is 6 plus b. So 198 equals 180 plus b. Subtract 180 from both sides, we get that b equals 18. So initial value, b equals $18. And that's the initial fee for taking any lessons from this instructor.